What if I told you that the story of Rambo, as you know it, basically didn't happen? I found an interesting fan theory the other day about Rambo, and the idea is basically this: that in the last scene of First Blood, when Colonel Troutman and him are in the room, he actually kills Rambo, and that the rest of the Rambo movies in Vietnam and Afghanistan and so on, none of that happened. They were actually just dreams Rambo had, or flashbacks to Vietnam as he lay there dying after being shot by Colonel Troutman. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's maybe interesting, but how do you know that? What gives that theory any sort of weight? Well, here's one theory. There's actually a leaked video of an alternate ending that just surfaced on YouTube. And it's a scene at the end. They're both in the office. Rambo has already done what he needs to do, and Troutman was the only one that could stop him. And they're in the office, and Rambo asks Troutman, "Hey, listen, you built me, you made me, you have to kill me." And he does. Here's the scene.
Sometimes you get so mad you think you're going crazy. Then it goes away, that hot feeling. It's not going away anymore, and I can't control it, Colonel. And I can't spend the rest of my life in a cell either. If I gotta die, I want you to do it. Don't let them do it. You trained me. You made me. You killed me. You owe me that.
There's a couple interesting things about this last scene. The first is, how does something like this get out? It had to have been leaked from someone who was in on the movie, right? I mean, who gets access to stuff like this? I would imagine an alternate ending is pretty top-level secret by a studio. So it must have been leaked from within. Maybe it was leaked intentionally by the studio to try and generate some interest in the movies. I don't know. But that's the first thing. Pretty interesting how these things get out. Secondly, it does kind of make sense. I mean, you put it in the context of like American movies, that kind of ending where Troutman kills Rambo, it makes for a great movie, but it doesn't make for a great bankroll if you're a studio, because how are you going to make Rambo 2 and Rambo 3, and you know, by the time you get past 3, they're all kind of like money grabs, right? It is an interesting thing because it makes sense that he's laying there dying and he sort of has these dreams as he's dying. We don't really know what happens, right, when you die. That all these things occur, and he's having flashbacks to Vietnam in Rambo 2 with Co. So it's a really interesting look at a movie that maybe should have ended in First Blood in that office. What a great ending that would have been to the whole story. I think it would have really elevated the movie itself. And there's plenty of great movies that ended after one. I mean, you know, you don't have to have the second and third one. Maybe they would have generated enough money because the first one was such a classic. Maybe even, I don't know, I'll say the word Academy Award, but it is a pretty great movie. There's some great actors in there. And it really does say something about the way we also sort of view not just endings for movies, that we have to, the hero has to win or go on or something like that, but also how we view war. And one of the things that Rambo says at the end was, you know, I came back from Vietnam and they treated me like shit and they spit on me and called me baby killer. And the redemption that he maybe tries to get through the rest of the series, because he doesn't die in the final cut, maybe that's a way of sort of wrapping up a nice little American comeback story in a way. But it is interesting that they shot the scene in the first place, because it would have been a fitting end, almost like if you think of Rambo as a representation of Vietnam, of the guilt of Vietnam, that it would have been a nice way to tie up the way America thinks about that war and to do it through this movie. So who knows who has the final decision on these things. I think it's a pretty interesting ending. I've watched the scene a few times, the alternate ending, and you know, it's not the best acted scene. It could have been done differently. Maybe they could have done it with a little bit of ambiguity, where it's not ambiguous the way that they shot it. But yeah, Reddit fan theory, Rambo, he actually dies at the end of the first one and dreams the rest of them as he lay there dying.